Yes, go ahead.
Mine could have so many different aspects to it. I understand both of your experience. I have some similar experience in my family as well. But also for me, a big one is the cultural difference. I came to the U.S. when I was a little bit before 12. So I grew up in a different, completely different, culture, religion, all that kind of things. And I came to the U.S. and my dad was out of the house the whole time working to support us, and my mom being illiterate both in Arabic and English, and she was sick at the time, so I kind of had to step up and become the mom to my three younger sisters who were very close in age anyway. So I had to deal with the different culture, then kind of trying to help my sisters and myself navigate an area that we have nothing, and no knowledge about whatsoever. So that helped me to just go where I want to go. I always want to go places. I don't know where that is. I just know I can do something. And the aspect of culture and diversity for me, big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. And sometimes it's frustrating when I see people, either in the Arab culture or the American culture that don't see it. I get frustrated with it, and I have to step back and be like, I really have the same experience as I did. And also, women role, like how people view gender as where the gender fit in the whole spectrum of life. I have people who support me, do whatever you want to do, and I have people who always tell me, this is not your place. For me, I never see it as an issue. I see if you're a person who's capable of doing any work, you just need to go for it. But obviously, you have to fight. Obstacles you see in your life, and you just have to deal with them.
Good. So that challenge for you and your family really did lead you into some very strong leadership skills themselves. Happy endings, that's good. One thing that's true generationally, and I'm real aware of it now as I speak to you, because things really have changed for women so much. And I would say things really have changed for people of color, for people of different sexualities, for all kinds of people of differences in our world. At least we talk about diversity and appreciate different perspectives these days. Sometimes those of you who are younger than I am will be dealing with generations of people who were raised in those traditional values. And you will feel the push and pull of the transitions in our culture. If you're aware of them, they won't surprise you, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I even am talking about this subject. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to move on to another topic, which is formal and informal education. Much happier topic in my point of view from my life. When I was in college, I studied French, and I have to insert this just because of what we're talking about. I studied French because my mother had always wanted to be a French teacher. Guess what? I never even realized that's why I was studying French as a first-generation college student until I was like 25, when I didn't really much care about teaching French. Isn't it weird what we can do with conditioning and socialization? Anyway, when I got to my own work, I was an interdisciplinary student, and my doctorate is in American Studies, as Gleaves mentioned, which combines history, social movement theory, art history, a bunch of humanities kinds of disciplines. Then I became a faculty member in Women's Studies at Wichita State University, the second oldest Women's Studies program in the country, not the universe. I saw in that discipline, and there was a lot of support in those days in the 80s when I was there, to look at organizational hierarchies as one of the problems of people trying to lead from wherever they are in an organization. In other words, leadership doesn't depend on a title. It depends on your qualities and motivations and so on. So when we looked at top-down hierarchies of those old bad kinds, those ones that really were not only top-down, but control was centered in the top, information was held at the top, all the things that leave workers in a very narrow range of involvement with the organization. Women's studies would have said that leaves out a lot of people and good ideas. Minorities in particular, and all kinds of talented people who might have been contributing to the cause, whatever the organization was. I was very heavily influenced by the anti-Vietnam War, that's how old I am, and women's movements of the late 60s and the decade of the 70s. For the past 25 years, I've been a Quaker as my religious affiliation, a religion that favors consensus over voting, pacifism, human equality, social justice, all of those things. The results in my leadership, well, these are easy. I tend to be an integrative thinker, and I watch for the big picture. My red flag in that identity is that it's hard for me to suffer people who think narrowly or in silos. Unfortunately, we have some of those problems in higher ed as we all divide out into disciplines and so on. It's hard to think that way for me. Inclusiveness and transparency are two of my biggest values. I believe that everyone has a leadership role at different times in their life, regardless of the title you own. It may be that the title identifies you in advance to people as someone who ought to be a leader, but it's really your actions who make you one or not your title. I can get really impatient with passive people, or ones who just fold. You know, I'm so unhappy, I'm so unhappy, I'm so unhappy, but I won't do anything about it. I have to watch my patience with that. That's my red flag. Do you see what I'm trying to do here? This is what happened in my life and what stuck, the impact of different values and experiences. And none of that goes away when you're working with a large group of people. The larger the group of people, the more it's likely to raise its head as both a positive and one that you have to know yourself about. Is this making sense to you? Okay, I hope so. I said before, because of my family, but also because of the Quaker religion, I honestly believe we are here on earth to help people have better lives. So I have a hard time with people who sort of have the habit of being cranky. You know, feeling best when they're in the middle of an argument. It's not, you know, I have a hard time with that. But arguments are good. Anger is productive sometimes. You know, I need to make sure that I can deal with those kinds of things given my value system. I have a tendency to try to seek consensus and input on an issue when there are some people who just want a decision right now. Just do it. I'm very decisive, but I also do a lot of upfront work, and that's backwards in some organizations. Let me stop there. In your education, maybe think about what discipline you went into as a student or as a professional. What does it say about you, how you were educated, and what does it seem to indicate is likely to happen for you when you're a leader, when you're in a leadership position? They always say, are there any people who are majoring in psychology in the room? Good that I can say this. No, I'm not serious about that. But they do say people go into psychology who really want to help something that had gone wrong in their lives. I've been a perfect psychologist. That happens real regularly. And there's even data about it usually is when there was something wrong with your mom. It's true. I don't know what to say.
It's our biggest major.
It is our biggest major. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, people who want to help